here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week, it's going to be the turn of the guitarist and songwriter Bill Dickson, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry, all that other groovy stuff. He was in various musical combos, including the Rousers, who were around in the late 70s, 80s, and have just got a release coming out 2025, the autumn of their 1979 Sire Sessions, which is available from all good record shops and also digital download. A 12-track collection of songs recorded, yes, at the late 70s. Anyway, you're going to find out more about that and so much more in this fascinating interview. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Bill, it's over to you.
Well, I would say late in life, I should say late in high school. You know, originally I didn't care too much about music when I was a kid. I can recall kids on the school bus, saying, "We love you, Beatles. Yes, we do." I didn't care. I didn't really pay attention to them. I didn't see them on Ed Sullivan.
Right, my God, you were one of the few people who didn't, have that magic cliche where they go, "Oh yes," and they were on the Ed Sullivan, and then my life changed forever.
But it soon did. Once I, like I say, I was probably about 8 years old then. I didn't care. By the time I was around 10 or 11, and I started. I had an older brother who, they had their records, and I can recall being completely fascinated by the Rolling Stones' "Got Live If You Want It."
Yes.
It was probably the first record that made me go, "Oh my goodness."
This is exciting stuff. So whereabouts were you? Were you sort of brought up and raised? Was that Manhattan that you were?
No, we moved around a little bit. I was born in Canada and lived in Massachusetts, and then California, and then I first met many of the Rousers in suburban Connecticut.
Right.
And then moved into New York City to go to school, and that's where we started at the Rousers. We had played in high school bands and whatnot.
Yes. So were you sort of kind of aware of that kind of cultural shift that was changing during the 60s, having seen the early years of the people like the Stones and the Beatles, the Kinks and people like that? Did you suddenly see that kind of change to, 66, 67, where there was the sort of the summer of love and everything was changing drastically?
Well, you fall in love with the music you're hearing, and certainly bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones were always pointing you backwards to the bands that they had liked and admired, And
yes,
there was also the there was the 70s rock and roll revival was quite big here. You had American Graffiti and Happy Days and package.
Oh yes,
they had package tours of all the 50s bands where all of a sudden you didn't have to be paying attention to music in 1955. They were all out and rediscovered for another generation, which was great.
Yes, and probably at the time, which was a bit strange, because I remember when somebody was in their 30s, you thought, God, they're so old, aren't they? When Paul McCartney was in his 30s and David Bowie, and now you look back and think, blimey, I kind of thought they were kind of past it, and for
Right.
some
Now,
reason their creativity was not going to be able to continue anymore. And in some cases, that is the case. But you just realise 30 is not really an old age. But when you're
although,
16,
I mean, to me, you speak of the Beatles sort of losing their shit. Uh, I believe as soon as they stopped touring, they turned into a sort of instead of looking outward, they were looking inward kind of thing.
yes,
And
it
they
was
ended
probably
up,
it was probably the LSD has helped as
yeah,
well on that
well,
on that.
and the LSD, they ended up, just indulging making a bunch of nonsense songs that, if you compare, Maxwell's Silver Hammer and, the songs of that ilk that are basically just novelty songs, uh, it was unusual for a pop group to do them, and certainly they could do anything they wanted. But you compare what the Rolling Stones managed to do afterwards and what the Beatles did, and it's no contest in my opinion.
Yes, well, absolutely. What was the first gig you went to, by the way?
I believe it was the first, I guess, modern concert was Johnny Winter
Right, the classic.
was playing at the Portchester Theater in Portchester, New York, which was sort of it was on the same circuit as the Fillmore and things like that. And that was the first big name act I saw.
Yes. And were you sort of picking up on that other kind of the garage punk kind of rock scene that was going on that
One
Nuggets?
day we became, I forget how we became aware of the New York Dolls, but we had their first record and were just, flabbergasted by it. And we saw them play at the Statler Hilton Hotel or someplace. It was like some little room, and we were just we didn't know what we had seen.
No, absolutely. So
You know,
when did you first get a guitar? When did the
well,
guitar appear?
it's interesting. In my high school bands, I was a singer. I was the singer, and we did end up getting um, I had an acoustic guitar at one point, but I didn't start playing guitar in a band until really the Rousers. So that was 74 or so.
Right, there you go.
And we lived in a town where a lot of people had equipment that they didn't use and they would loan it to you.
My
This
God,
kid lent, this kid lent me uh, ES335 and a super reverb, and I basically learned, how to play on his stuff.
yes.
So, by the time we're actually starting out, it's like, oh shit, I have to get some stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Quite handy. Did you leave school when you were 16, or did you go on to high school at that period in life?
Oh, I graduated high school by the seat of my pants, and that was in, I guess, class of '74, and
Right.
uh, decided I wasn't going to college right away, and ended up spending a year basically playing in whatever band we had out there in the suburbs, and working in a garment factory, which
Right.
which sucked. That convinced me right away it was time to go to college, or you could very easily end up doing that for the rest of your life. So,
Yes. Did it,
um,
I mean, in sort of obviously around on the news factor, there was the Vietnam War going on. Were you ever sort of worried that, or your parents worried about you sort of being drafted to that? Or
yeah, I didn't want to go there. I had as I said, I was born in Canada, so I was looking into the possibility of
yes,
claiming dual citizenship to avoid it. I had a draft,
yes.
I had a draft card, and people I can recall. There was a friend of ours who avoided his induction by, playing crazy. People would do all sorts of shit to avoid getting into that. And I have to say, I'm delighted I never had to serve.
No, well, absolutely. And did it seem strange because you were at the age where you sort of saw, the sort of modern pop music developing. When it got to that period of sort of 60, 69, Brian Jones died, which must have been a bit of a, one of the first people that you on an art, musician to have
And
died.
before you knew it, Janis Joplin was dead, Hendrix was dead,
And Morrison. So the following year, 69 was Brian Jones, and then all the others died in 1970, and they were only 27. Did that seem? And the Beatles broke up. I know you weren't a huge Beatles fan, but yeah, you had Charles Manson.
I liked them. I loved them when they were a pop band.
Yes. But did you feel like you just getting to that age? You went, oh my God, perhaps music's over. Was there ever any debate or any feeling that this was a major change and perhaps the establishment had got it right, saying, well, it's just going to be a fad, it won't last very long?
I was more rock and roll will never die, I'll dig it to the end kind of take, because there was a very exciting music going on, I thought, and the music that you discovered, get yourself 20 greatest country hits, and you're going to hear all sorts of great things.
Well, yes, absolutely.
You had the OJs, you had the Spinners, you had that whole Philadelphia sound was going on. Plus, the fellows that you grew up, you had Slade and David Bowie and, Mott and...
did T-Rex manage to sort of straddle the Atlantic and sort of enter people's consciousness?
For me, not beyond Bang a Gong and Cheapster, the hits.
Yeah. The greatest hits. Sometimes as you get older, that's all you need in life, really.
Greatest hits have informed a lot of my musical taste, especially collections of, 20 great R&B hits, and it'll have, everybody on it.
Yes, well, absolutely. I know there was
Jerry Reed. It'll have this and that, and all that stuff. We were fortunate to, I think, grow up in a time where both the current music and the music before us was very good. I mean, there was also, it was a time when if you liked, progressive rock was quite popular, not so much with me. I like things just more basic.
Yes, well, my brother was 7 years...
Because basic rock, you can play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because my brother was 7 years older, so he was born about 1957, so he was into the prog world of, Genesis, Wishbone Ash, Barclay James Harvest, and then there was people like Jethro Tull coming out as well, so there was all that very intricate and slightly self-indulgent style, which I didn't know if it sort of managed to sort of find itself that much in America during that sort of...
those bands were huge.
Really?
Were you? Not with me. I mean, I was not a big fan of the...
Did King Crimson come on?
King Crimson was huge. He was my friend John Ledline and I used to sit around and listen to them for ages.
Right. There you go.
Core the Crimson King was huge. Couple of bands like that. I didn't find them that, bands of that ilk didn't move me the way the simpler music did.
No, God, it's very
whatever
twiddly.
reason, by the time you hear 96 Tears, you don't really have to hear another song.
Yes.
That song just does it all.
Yes, well, I could imagine. And did you? I mean, obviously, you're sort of on that sort of moment where you're sort of seeing music change, and sort of there was the singer-songwriters, wasn't it? Laurel Canyon, and you had people like Carole King, Joni Mitchell, and Neil Young, people like that, and then the beginning of yacht rock, as they call it now, which was quite intricate. What was it like then, sort of hearing that sort of early sound of, you mentioned New York Dolls, but then when you started hearing other sort of slightly more punk song outfits happening, what was that like as a youngish guitar player?
I didn't really care for the punk sound much. It just sounded like dudes who couldn't play, and couldn't write, couldn't play, couldn't sing.
Yes.
So I was not a big proponent of punk rock. Sex Pistols were obviously a pretty amazing band, and you had the Clash, and you had Damned, et cetera, et cetera. Eddie and the Hot Rods, maybe more of a pop band, but I didn't. It was not. They didn't appeal to me in a. I want to sound like that. I want to look like that. They speak for me. To me, they were sort of a interesting offshoot of hello, angry young man. I'm glad somebody's been an angry young man.
Yes.
And I guess every generation needs them, but there was a lot of shit music associated with it.
Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. I mean, it certainly gets, I mean, it starts well, but it goes downhill very quickly when lots of people jump on that bandwagon. I think
I suppose it's true of any particular style of music that becomes faddish or something. I mean, also, whatever, there was a much more, the disaffections in Britain were quite different than in the United States. Not that there weren't, it was just an angrier time, and people were angrier at their government then.
I think in the UK we did seem to, I mean, I was a bit too young at the time, but realising that there was a lot of kind of political change going on between the Conservatives and Labour, and there was, and there wasn't a huge amount of money around. Most people were quite poor, really. So there was the sort of things like the 3-day week, and then there was, I do remember this, where, the electricity would go off for a few hours each, most days for a period of time, and you'd get this in the paper. They would give you a little timetable saying, "Oh, your electricity will go off." So, shops used to,
I was aware of that.
But so it was a little bit grim. But you would have had the oil crisis and various other little bits and pieces.
Yeah, I mean, there were hiccups, and there were certainly people that were unhappy about. Nixon, you get Nixon, Ford, and then Jimmy
Carter. My God,
Jimmy Carter seemed like a ray of hope, and
he did.
Quickly followed by 8 years of Reagan, and.
But what was New York like then during that period in the 70s? Because it feels like
it was a trash can.
It was I mean, that's the kind of the documentaries highlight this as a sort of a place that you wouldn't want to live, and the only people who did were those who didn't have any money, so you could get a squat. And
it was a great time to be a young person, because rents were cheap.
Yes, well, I would imagine.
We stayed we had an apartment on Port St. Mark's Place. It was like a 4-bedroom apartment that cost $200 a month. So all you need, even all you needed was some shitty day job to get by, and you could take care of most of your things. But it was, it was a sort of tough time. Semi-dangerous stuff. People got mugged in this and that. And
did you go to CBGBs at this point in your life?
Oh yeah.
Was that on your?
David, can I pause you for a second?
Wait. Yes, I'll hit pause. Here we go. Look. Yeah, yes, anyway, that's pause. Yeah, so just CBGB's, Max's Kansas City. What was that kind of scene like? Seeing, obviously, these were very young punk bands and sort of new wave bands starting. Was that an
Well,
exciting period?
oh, it was great. You could go out every night and you'd see something, uh, sometimes not interesting, but sometimes you'd see something that you couldn't believe. And we had bands that we loved to see, and it was exciting to be part of what was going on.
Well, yes, absolutely.
We had first started out, as I said, seen, the Dolls and the Dictators, et cetera, et cetera. And then when uh, we did an audition night and passed that enough that we uh, got in there. And Peter Crowley had seen us, was at the audition. I guess I don't know if he was spying to find bands that he'd consider for Max's or what, but
Yes.
he just had a keen eye for what was going on, and he loved us and was interested in having us. But back in the day, it's like you'd walk down from Fort St. Mark's Place to the Bowery, and it was like nothing but ski balls everywhere. It was not a comforting place. The area was not had not been gentrified. It was bums.
No.
It was full of derelicts and bums and drug addicts and questionable people and people who liked rock music that was going on in this unlikely location. And it was great. You go there, you'd get your rolling rock, and you'd see bands were doing. You'd do 2 sets a night back then.
Yes, and still old Peter Crowley. He brought a book out quite recently, actually, which I sort of bought after doing the interview with him, which was quite sweet.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah, he's an entertaining fella.
He's lovely.
He could tell you tales all day long.
I would imagine, yes, and some of the people he worked with through that period with Max was quite something, really. I think they all ended up.
Our record is actually dedicated to Peter Crowley.
Oh, fantastic! Because he's good.
Well, I mean, really, part of the Rousers story is thank you, Peter Crowley.
Well,
if you don't have people looking out for you that think you're worth promoting and whatnot, and that made all the difference in terms
well,
of.
Absolutely. So the Rousers, you got together as 77, didn't you? This was yours.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
So was that quite a steady lineup at that stage?
Oh yeah.
You got
I should say we had that lineup for probably 5 or 6 years. About that. The singer Jeff Buckland quit at one point and was replaced by a fellow named Michael Hatfield, and then Jeff came back to the band.
And did you and you were rhythm guitarist at this stage?
That's right.
Right, and you had the sort of the classic lineup: bassist, lead guitar,
5-piece, man.
A 5-piece band. There you go. So when you first started, then, because it took a while before you got into the studio. Did you just kind of play live? Was that sort of your just remit at that stage? Just being on the
studios cost money. Nobody had money for that sort of stuff. That's always sort of been the model for a long time, was you play out until you get good enough that somebody wants to pay you to record.
Yes.
Some bands would, I guess, if you could find your way into a studio and record yourself, I guess you might.
Were you getting frustrated at sort of after sort of a year, 18 months that you were thinking, how come all these other people are getting signed? You saw Talking
But they
Heads.
weren't. Very few bands were getting signed, and the ones that were getting signed weren't selling anything. Uh, hell, the Dolls didn't sell anything. The Ramones didn't sell anything.
No. Did you meet Danny Fields at that stage?
I never met him in my life that I'm aware of.
No, he was just the Ramones kind of manager at that kind of
Oh
early
no, I
period.
know who he is. I did meet John Holmstrom at some point when they were just starting out, starting Punk Magazine. They were looking for people to sell it or something. Uh,
Yes.
I don't know. No, I don't. I think to us it was exciting. We were getting more and more people liked us and were interested. We were becoming more popular. We were playing more often. Uh, I guess there might be, it's like, when's our big break? We're better than them.
Yes. Well, I would
Uh,
imagine there must a little bit of a movement because you had these two quite famous clubs, didn't you? And sort of a lot of live bands going. And then you saw someone like Blondie, who sort of, I think it was 78. I mean, they'd done two albums, and then that album, single Denis, suddenly hit the charts in the UK. And then suddenly Parallel Lines came out. And
and all of
then,
a sudden, she went from being, you know, that pretty girl who used to be in the Stilettos to international pop star, and which was wonderful. We had hoped that the Dolls would become, to us they deserved uh, the status of Aerosmith. And
yes.
it's funny that the band to make it big out of New York was Kiss.
Yes, this is true. Yeah, I know it's never the ones you kind of probably expect, but I could imagine
And
that.
it was a little disappointing to see how few. It seemed to me that the record companies were completely confused by this uh, music. By this whole like sort of new wave punk. Nobody knew what to call it, what to do with it. Uh,
Did you see when you saw bands like The Police and Elvis Costello and Joe Jackson coming over from the UK, and then you had people like Dave Edmunds and sort
yeah,
of Nick Lowe, and now that
Dave Edmunds was right up my alley. He was sort of like, you're doing what I like.
was that quite a sort of inspiration to the band at that stage? You thought this is more us than sort of trying to sound like.
It was more sort of confirmation that we were on the right track. Is how I would take it. Uh, and that music was exciting. Elvis Costello, uh, Police, all these bands, and
Yes. But well, they have a certain musicianship which is quite sort of amazing. So then, so leading up, you're there in '77. You form, playing lots of gigs, and then you have this session with Sire Records. Is that right? In
that's right.
in '79. So is it Seymour Stein? Does he sort of see the band and think you're the ones?
Uh, my memory of how we got there is not that good.
No, it's a slight.
Who knows about that is Jerid O'Connell, our drummer. Uh,
Right. He's the man. He's the
mentioned
man. He's the man who's got
mentioned
the.
that the Seymour Stein would come down to see us, et cetera, and had taken some interest in us. Uh, this I had completely forgotten, but
Yes. So you got the deal to do the album then.
well, actually, all it was they had a new 8-track studio in their basement of their building. I think it was on the Upper West Side or something, and I believe we knew Ed Stasium because I think he was somehow associated with Media Sound, which was a studio in Manhattan where our other guitar player, Tom Milmore, worked.
Yes.
And I believe that's, Ed had come down and seen us. I think maybe Seymour Stein had seen us. But at any rate, it was sort of like, oh, let's try out this studio. And of course, we were excited to go in there and do our thing. At the time, Sire was not. I think they had Ramones and Talking Heads, and Talking Heads, of course,
Yes.
super legitimate band. It's like, oh, look at that. But they were also a tiny little boutique-ish sort of thing that was distributed through, I think, Warner Brothers. So it wasn't like, mentally, it was not a major label, which the gold ring at the time was the major label. You wanted to be on CBS, Warner's, RCA, one of those. This is all before Sony bought everything, and there's only 3 record companies.
Yeah, I think
it was a very healthy record industry at the time.
Yes, well, they were starting to get quite a lot of money, so
it was starting to be the era of the within years you had the platinum records and the real blockbuster records, and I think that there was the expectation. They're in the business of selling volume.
Yes, and also
they want to ship units. They don't want to support niche bullshit. I mean, there's some little record labels that'll put things out, not quite out of the goodness of their heart, but because they believe in it, whatever that might be.
Well, I suppose you had was it Z Records?
Z Records was around. I think they might be a little later. I'm going to guess maybe.
Yes, they were definitely much more sort of cult, really, weren't they? I mean, at the time they probably sold very little, but then have become very sort of yes.
But they would also sign people. They would sign more of the arty kind of.
Yes, very arty.
Which I didn't have that much patience with that kind of music.
And it was quite eclectic as well, wasn't there? There was a lot of sort of influence of jazz and African beats and stuff like that in there, as well as yes, it was much more choppy, actually. So when you got,
it's music is the intellectual aspect of music seemed quite high on it. I don't know. I wanted to write pop songs and have gold records.
Well, yes, absolutely. This is the dream of us youngsters at that point in life, isn't it? So when you had that sort of session, for Sire, this was kind of like they gave you a sort of an opportunity to record a rather nice demo. Was that the case, that you just went into the studio for
run down your set kind of thing?
Right. So
it's about what it came to. Is we recorded about 14 songs, and I think there was some overdubbing, but not a great deal. So it was all done within 2 days.
And how was your songwriting? How did that come about? Was it one member of the band or two, or did you get together and work
typically
things?
I would write a song and bring it to the band, and we sort out how it was going to go.
Yes, because on his you've got
the singer Jeff Buckland was also a songwriter, and a good one. So we had 2 sources of stuff, and we also had tons of cover songs. You're playing 2 sets a night. We didn't have enough, and you needed some of those things to get people up and dancing when you were playing that sort of place.
Yes. Did you write "Twanged If You Do, Twanged If You Don't"? Was that one of yours?
Fucking did, yes.
That's a classic.
It's a fucking great song. It makes me laugh because it's it does what it says. It twangs, but it's also kind of a novelty song.
No, it's good.
It's both stupid and uh, both stupid and kind of endearing in a certain way. You know what I mean? It's a sweet-minded song in a way.
Yes, and
I love that song. It's like bouncy little. It almost is meant to have that little horn feel to it, like you know, you almost could have a horn part in it, but thank God.
I get the impression Duane Eddy is a major influence on the band.
In terms of we cover some of his songs. We just love there was something absurd about his sound. You know what I mean? It's just like just drenched in twang, and his dedication to that sound. I mean, he basically created a sound and built a whole career around it. I just thought it was an amazing sound. I first heard about Duane Eddy I had read some quote about from George Harrison,
right?
Saying how much he admired Duane Eddy, and
yes,
I ended up getting Duane Eddy's greatest hits, and I see why you like him so much, George.
Yes,
it's very rollicking, and just I love the sound of that reverb, you know, with a little tremolo on it. Just sound.
So Ramrod and Moving and a Grooving, they're sort of your nods, aren't they?
Well, those are they're good. They move along. If you don't like it, it's done before you know it.
Yes. And what about Lonely Summer? Was this one of yours that you wrote?
Yeah, that's one of those thinking about girls, thinking about the summer, and there's a summer song.
Yes. And is that the same as you've got another track, Party Boy? Is that a number that was one that's sort of written by you?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So most of the songs on here are your compositions.
With the exception of the first one, which is a Jeff Buckland one, and the ones that are covers, those are my songs. Yeah.
Yes, my God. So you did this session for Sire and went away. And when you heard it, were you kind of pleased with the results and thought, yes, we've done
I think my recollection is that was, if not among our first time in at least a semi-pro recording studio, and I think we thought it was good. Maybe good enough to get us a record deal, or do we? Even if we were offered one, do we really want to be on Sire Records? This is the kind of mindset at the time, because we thought we were going somewhere for sure.
Yes. So then
My
what
recollection is that having made this thing, I believe there was some talk of maybe put something out in England or blah blah blah. I don't recall the details of how or why nothing happened with it, but we never revisited it. We didn't go like, well, hell, we'll put it out ourselves. That never dawned on us, because we were sure somebody else was going to, we'd get signed to somebody else. If this didn't work out, something else would.
Yeah.
So, we had our cassettes of the thing, and I guess we might have played it for people and whatnot, but it just sort of, nothing much came of it, is my recollection.
Yeah, I know it seems strange. So how did you then? I mean, that's quite unusual for a band from this, doing these interviews. I mean, so how did you then spend the next year, 1980, once you've done this recording in 1979? Where did the
I believe, within another year, we were doing demos for other companies.
right?
We were doing do one for RCA, do one for A&M, do what, you do these showcases for the dudes in the satin baseball jackets,
Yes.
Uh,
Did you?
so we always felt that something was about to happen. So I don't think uh, we look back on that demo uh, too much. We were kind of looking forward to, well, nothing happened with that. Let's go on to and see what's next down the road.
Because you go into the studio, don't you, in '81, or you release that song called Party Boy, don't you? And this is produced by Wayne Kramer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a dreadful production. Not that Wayne necessarily did a bad job, but I guess dance rock was starting to be a thing by then.
Mm.
I don't know if that's like Adamant period or
Well, yes, I suppose actually
or
it
something
was.
like that. But so on that particular single, there's a lot of extemporaneous bullshit that trying to make it sound modernistic or whatever. And I think if you were to compare the version of Party Boy on the '79 Sire session to the version that is on the Jimboco single, uh, the Sire one, I believe, is the better one.
Yeah.
There's just too much bells and whistles on that Party Boy single, in my opinion.
Yes. Well, I guess they're trying to. I guess sometimes people almost try too hard, don't they? When they.
Oh, I think that was definitely the case with that. Yet, keep in mind that the flip side of that is uh, is a ballad, which is a very which is also on the CD, I believe. Again, a different version, but it's a very just a very easy, calm thing. So I think the idea was to have a good deal of contrast between the two.
Yes. God. Well. Yes.
It was
So as that sort of '80s period started to progress, then what happens to the band once you've done that single? Is it a case that you're starting to struggle keeping the stamina and the enthusiasm going?
well. I believe we already had these two managers at the time that single was released, and not long after it was recorded, and perhaps even before it was released, uh, they convinced us that there was an issue with the rhythm section, that Jerid and John had to go.
Right.
And I think we sort of went, "Go, really?" Uh, but we're somehow convinced enough to stab our friends in the back and replace them with Sal Capazuca, who had been the drummer in the Boyfriends, who were managed by one of our managers. So I think there was part of the thinking was like, nah, Sal needs a slot. Let's stick him in the Rousers.
Right. My God, that must have been a horrendous moment in the band's.
No, it was a terrible thing to do to your friends, and but we kept going, and they sounded good. They're good players. Are they worth kicking out John and Jerid for? I don't know. I mean, I ended up playing with Sal and Brett for most of my life after that. Off and on, we were in bands forever, which is, that unfortunately, that was, as far as I know, the end of Jerid and John's professional music career. I don't believe they played in any other outfits.
Oh my God! Yes, that is not. That
No,
is
right. So it sucked balls, and we somehow they were generous minded enough to remain friends.
yes, one of those. Well, yeah, I know. These
Well,
things
and
happen.
it's funny in a way because the great impetus behind this record is really Jerid, uh, and that makes sense in some ways because this was one of the great, once he stumbled on it and went, well, hell, this is here. uh it was a great, it was probably the musical highlight of his career.
Yes. So
And
when did the
and certainly
band?
an early one of my career, and to have it come out now, you go like, well, holy heck, that was, we're a pretty entertaining outfit, weren't we? It's
When did the band finish?
I'm gonna say by 83 or so, 83,
Yes.
84, it was done, I think, because and likewise, by the time that when that outfit broke up, I'm not aware of Jeff ever being in organized show business again. Uh,
Right.
as a singer, he went on to be a well-regarded animator and illustrator, uh,
Yes.
just as Jerid went on to make his fortune in the photo retouching dye transfer business. Uh, to not be distracted by music lets you do all sorts of other things.
Well, did you keep in? Was music the thing that sort of kept you going for the next 40 years?
Oh, hell yeah. Always had a band.
Always had a band. How did you manage to sort of? Did you manage to sort of? Did it have to be a sort of a side hustle while you?
Always. Day job. You got a
Right.
day job. Eventually, music just becomes an expensive hobby.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like you're the one who wants to keep doing it. It's not like, you're there by popular demand. It's like you're there by your own demand because you like doing it. I mean, not that, people liked us and shit enough that we could, play at CBGB's until a week before they closed.
Yes.
So we kept doing that and had some great bands along the ways. Very, to me, very entertaining. So I always loved doing it, and I loved the people I played with. Uh, I love the original Rousers. I love the late Rousers. They're all
So did the
people
was
and musicians.
was the late Rousers that one that you mentioned, sort of 82 to 83? You didn't ever reform again decades later or years later then?
Never played with Jeff Buckland again. But Tommy, when the let's call it the second Rousers that had Brett and Sal as the rhythm section and Jeff as the vocalist, when that broke up, uh, Brett and I ended up playing with Fleet Marcade in a white soul band called the Backbones, and Tom and Sal joined up and played with a number of bands on their own. And eventually around 80, I'm going to say 86 or something, 87, we got back together and called ourselves the Praise Jockeys. And
Right.
that was much more of a heavy sound. It was very riff-tastic, loud, crunchy, which was, we were good at making that kind of sound. And by this time, I was singing in the band, so that was which I continued to do throughout all these bands.
Yes. My God. So you've
So that was fun. I mean, it's fun to sing your own songs. There were times that I would be uh, in the original Rousers, where I wish I was the singer.
Well, quite, yes. So then when did you or somebody discover this hidden cassette or tape in the archives? When did this start to
I
appear?
believe that was I believe that was in 24. My recollection, I could be wrong. You can always check in with Jerid O'Connell, who knows this. I believe he had become aware of that somebody had a Rousers cassette of us live at Max's,
Right.
and he could get a copy of that from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's where this cassette was. And I believe he had that transferred and sent along. And it's an entertaining document of a band playing at Max's. But in doing so, he had been in touch with the archivist there, and I don't know if he asked or if they offered. So there's a bunch more Rouser stuff over here, and oh, do tell. And
Yes.
someone there sent him a picture of these boxes, and he kind of sent those over to Tom and said, "Do you think these are half inch or the half-inch masters of this?" And it's like, "Yeah, I think they might be." So he looked at them and had them transferred to digital stuff, and I think he had gotten in touch following that. He had gotten in touch with Ed Stasium, and that's sort of like, guess what I found? Would you have an interest in doing something with it? And Ed is kind of a super busy dude at the time. He was redoing, uh, you know, the Ramones, and he's always doing a Ramones remastering of some sort, it seems. Anyway, so he was
Right.
very involved in that, but he was uh, he did offer to give us a friends and family rate to mix Bumblebee Rock, which was exciting. So I think having Jerid basically is the one who discovered this, had it digitized, and I think had a conversation with Jim Reynolds, uh, sort of like, what do you think of this? And this is the fellow that left for Dead Records, and he did express some interest in it. So we had it digitized, uh, and then we hooked up with this fellow Bob Stander, who has done. We were the late Rousers with me, Tommy, Sal, and Brett, recorded with him for years. So we have a good relationship with him, and he gets good results, and he he gave us a good rate to mix and master it. So that was super fun, get the files in, go down to his little studio there and just listen to this stuff. You're like, wow, that's pretty peppy.
I would imagine, yes. And I guess the whole thing was a surprise if you had you over
We
those
had,
decades.
we had cassettes of this going, after everybody got a cassette when the session
Right.
was, and at that time, I think Ed mixed, well, I guess four of the most promising ones, did a quick rough mix, and you know, that was in your box of cassettes for however many years, and you stopped thinking about it or listening to it a long time ago. So very entertaining to hear
Yes.
the quality of it was a welcome surprise. You figure demo, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe it has some okay sounds, some okay renditions, but the performances are right there, the recordings are right there. So then it just became a really fun exercise of like, all right, let's get all these little fellas to go in and blend super nicely. And it's only 8 tracks, so there's only so much you can do with it. It's one vocal track, one guitar on that. Maybe there's a lead guitar track. I think there's maybe 2, if not 1 drum track, 1 bass. So it's very, and that really does give you the opportunity to not get distracted by, let's put singing birds and
Yes.
it forces an immediacy to it, and that's something that's very gratifying about the sound of it. Is it it sounds a lot like a live performance in the way that in the old days when you came in to do a record, you just did it, and if you made a mistake, you did it again. Uh, it kind of has a little bit of that kind of immediacy to it, which is I just get a big kick out of it. I think it has a very lively sound to it that's fun to listen to.
Well, absolutely. Did you was that an opportunity then when this project started to come into fruition, I suppose? Did the members of the band start to sort of contact each other and sort of have a little bit more kind of communication with each other at this stage?
Oh, somewhat. The more so between Jerid, Tom, and I believe Jeff was contacted to kind of get his okay on it. But over the years, he hasn't shown tremendous interest in Rouser things.
No.
So it hasn't. We haven't become reunited as best pals or anything. Johnny's down in Texas. We more or less we're the kind of people that get in touch when they have to, not just out of the blue.
Yeah. Well,
So it's been very entertaining for, or I would say, Jerid, Tom, and I, but that hasn't necessarily extended out to the remaining fellows, which is, I'm sorry about that. I wish there was more cohesive excitement about it.
yes, but I don't know. Perhaps these things just happen. At least you've got a few. So when did the idea? You got the cassette. Did someone say, well, actually, rather than just kind of put it into an archival sort of format, let's release it? When did that idea sort of spring to mind?
Well, I think that as soon as these tapes it was the 8-track masters. So there's 14 songs or so. It's like, let's put out, I think it was at that point that that Jim Reynolds and Jerid got together and said, like, let's put on a show in the barn. Should we put out a record? Blah blah blah. How much does it cost? All the sort of technical things of, is it feasible to do something with that? And, God bless Jim Reynolds has always been a big fan of the Rousers. He put out our one single.
Yeah.
But I think he felt it was music that deserved to be heard. So.
And the dream came true. It must be.
I'm driving a Cadillac car now.
I know, you can just kind of take it easy. Yes, well, 45 years, 46, I suppose. I mean, it must be quite something to suddenly have all the music sort of being there. The product is available. It's going to be on Bandcamp.
It's hilarious. Something that you sort of feel should have been there 40 years ago, and what would have happened if it had been. World's full of what ifs. But I like the better late than never aspect of it.
Well,
Uh,
absolutely.
you know,
And
there it is, and you know, so many of the people, like, we used to play in these little places in the village that were made up of older fellows like ourselves that just never stopped playing. Uh, you know, like Kevin Shaw from the BMTs, and is in a couple of bands, the Hip Hips, et cetera, et cetera. And we would all go there and, you know, sort of cheer each other on. So there is a little scene going on. But you know, the modern, I hesitate to say this is a great song for old people, but you know, the clubs that have young people outside of them are there because there's a DJ, not because there's a band. Has been my experience recently. So, uh, who was the audience for this? I don't know.
no, but I don't know.
People who are curious about that time.
Yes, there's the historians. I mean, it's not just old people. I mean, young people are sort of very curious on the 80s. And
Yeah,
I mean,
there are people who are interested in that, just like there were, you know, young people who uh, you know, thought the blues were great and all that stuff back in the '60s. So I don't know. It's very interesting to be. Uh, I mean, our music always sounded sort of old in the first place, so it's. I don't know. But it's a heck of a good sounding record, and I hope everybody that hears this is able to add it to their collection.
so are you releasing it as a sort of potential download? But are you doing CDs and possibly vinyl as well for this?
Vinyl, in fact, is out.
The
Uh,
vinyl is gone.
no, I don't mean it's exhausted. I believe it's still available for sale. I think they did an original uh, limited edition pressing, 100 white vinyl, 200 black vinyl, and the rest CDs. And I guess you make more vinyl if you sell all those.
Yes.
uh, but
Well,
I believe in the new year, then it'll be on all the platforms, streaming platforms, blah blah blah. But you have to move the physical product first.
right, that's the game plan. Well, it must be very exciting. I know a lot of indie
It's
bands.
hilarious to find myself talking to someone like you. It's like, oh, tell us about yourself. Well, let me tell you, son.
Yes, I know.
Nobody's
Y-
given a shit about this stuff for 40 odd years, including myself in some ways. You know, I mean, you look back on that and you don't give it too much thought, but this whole process and release has it makes you reevaluate that time a little bit and revisit it, which is very entertaining to do.
Well, absolutely. And do you, when you go out live, do you ever play any songs by the Rousers, by the way?
Oh fuck yeah, we played that. I played Party Boy and Footsteps and Lonely Summer my whole fucking life.
Right. There you go. It's good.
You know, it's and we occasionally we re-recorded some of those with a later version of the Rousers. We did I forget that we did Party Boy. I've recorded several times,
Yes. Well, it's
but you know, I mean, it's a good enough song.
that
And if
it's
a new recording of it is does any better,
brilliant.
if
Well,
our recording does anything.
and do you, and what have you got sort of lined up for next year musically, you know, with your sort of different combos and with this potential release? Is there
I
anything
have
on?
no freaking idea. Uh,
r-
the you know the very late Rousers, which ended in 20. Uh, that was a trio, and that ended in 2020 when Sal King got the drummer
Yes.
got COVID and died, and that was the end of that. We haven't really played out live uh, since that. Me and Tommy. I mean, I played with Tommy my entire career, basically,
Yeah.
minus the backbones. Uh, Yeah, and it's, you start getting old and cranky, whether or not you want to bother to get back together. I don't know if somebody wants to give us $50,000 to be the Rousers. I'm sure we would be happy to go on some Japanese tour or get the band back together to go on one of these oldster things. I don't know. It's
Well,
to
it's
me
always tempting. Well, it's nice.
that
I
would be
mean,
very entertaining. I don't know. I mean, I miss playing uh, with people, just because you feel compelled to do it for whatever reason. You do it your whole life.
well, absolutely. I think every musician has this slight curse, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's kind of uh, a bad habit in some ways.
I know
Uh,
it's tricky, isn't it?
but it's
But
there's that said, especially if you're doing your own material, it's very satisfying when you get a good version of something, and somebody goes, "Oh, I love that song." And I'm like, "Yeah, me too."
which is good. Well, it'll be fascinating to see how this release sort of gets a little bit of traction
Well,
around.
it's interesting I haven't heard. Not that I think anybody would share it with me if there was. It's like worst release ever. What the fuck are they thinking? Uh, haven't heard anything like that. People generally seem to like the sound of it, be enthusiastic about it. Uh,
Which is good.
I think a couple of the kind of records, radio stations that play independent releases or maybe playing a little bit of it. So I love the idea that some poor dope is sitting there and hears twanged if I do, twanged if I don't, and goes like, man, I dig that sound.
Excellent.
That's why you did it in the first place.
Well, absolutely.
And
Mm.
we thought we were going to be in every frigging household and car and et cetera, et cetera. Uh, and of course that gets a little frustrating. It's like you want more people to be aware of what you do than are in the same room with you. It's so I'm hoping that people from many lands will come to know and love the Rousers. There's two other Rousers at least.
Yeah, I did
There's a
notice.
Dutch Rousers and there's a Wisconsin Rousers.
I've come across the Dutch Rousers. You know, yeah.
Yeah, they had their big hit was Magazine Girl, I believe.
Right. My God, that must be very strange having. But I
Well, I,
guess,
I think we should have a battle of the bands, a battle of the Rousers. And
are you all very different?
as far as I know, the Wisconsin one, I don't know anything about. Uh, then I purposely don't pay too much attention to the Dutch one because they were told to stop using the name and they did not.
Right, little buggers, aren't
So how can we be friends, really?
they?
Although,
No.
really, after all these years, why can't we?
Yes. So, but
I don't know.
you have to let go. Yeah. Anyway, look, but this is well. I'm just so pleased that you managed to, get this archive. I think archiving is one of the great things as we get older, and it's lovely to sort of get this out there because, let's face it, it would have just been sitting there forever, really, wouldn't it? And just probably thrown into landfill. So to be able
Right,
to sort of
and even if it didn't, who's going to stumble upon it and give a shit?
no,
Me. But it's interesting as far as you're mentioning archiving. My friend Greg New uh, was a little bit of a Rouser fanatic. We had played in bands in high school, and he went on to do financial sort of stuff. But he remained a good friend and recorded the Rousers whenever he saw us. Took hundreds of pictures, et cetera, et cetera. So he had this huge, most complete Rouser archive there was, and he died recently, within a year or so, and I inherited it. And because I had heard from Jerid, oh, there's these Rock and Roll Hall of Fame archives all sorts of stuff. So I called them, got in touch with them and said, would you like this? And they said, oh, yes, we would. So that's all with them now, all these, live tapes, tons of Rouser material is now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's very good. I'm pleased you've done that, because with this release,
I can't take care of it. I don't.
No, absolutely. You'll have to take a little trip when you're on to go to Las Vegas to see the punk rock museum, which is quite nice.
I heard they had a museum of punk rock where, if I'm not mistaken, they have a make-believe CBGB's front there.
Yeah, I did go when I was there a year or two ago, and it's impressive. They've got a lot of stuff, so it's nice that people are sort of paying attention, but also making sure this stuff doesn't get lost in landfill.
Yeah, the fact that there's people that are interested, I guess it just goes to show there's people interested in everything,
Well, absolutely. No, it's good. But look, thank you ever so much for your time. I'm so pleased that this lined up so easily. Massive thank you to, I think it's Howard, isn't it, who organises these things.
Yes, Howard is the man.
He is the
Howard
man.
is the man.
Without him, we'd be hopelessly
He's a
lost.
very nice fellow. Well, thank you for taking the time.
Yes. Well, look, thank you. And
me jabber on about the Rousers, and
it's always good to hear. And I hope you have a nice winter. And I hope the release goes really well. And
me too.
It'll be nice to see all the copies go and everyone getting a download, which will be fantastic. And good luck with your dog. It's always it's always.
I'll let you know how Stuart's doing.
Yeah, well, good luck on that.
I hate to say it, but he's on his way out. But
yes.
Aren't we all, slowly but surely?
But this is true. As long as he's had a good life, that's the main thing.
Oh, he's had a very fine time.
He's had a spoiled time, hasn't he? He's been
a little bit.
It's nice.
It's super fun to chat with you.
Yes, well, it's been lovely.
I appreciate you taking an interest in the Rousers and our exciting new release.
Well, it is good, and yes, I've it's been an interesting time, sort of catching a lot of these bands from that late 70s, very early 80s who've released. Normally bands have a 5-year narrative. They get together, 12-month honeymoon. They get a single, an album, a bit of a tour, a second album, a bit more of a tour, possibly a third album. But then, 5 years is a good stretch of time for most bands, I think. So
you're either going to break through and keep doing it forever, or you're not going to break through and go into other bands or do whatever.
Absolutely, yes.
I don't know. It's a crazy business.
It is a weird one. But
it's so much fun, when you're on with that band, there's no place on earth you'd rather be.
No, this is what keeps rock and roll going, isn't it? Really. But look, thank you ever so much.
Capsule that. Well, thank you, David.
Take care, and I'll keep in touch with Howard.
Do that, and then say hello to your many listeners and your time.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, good luck with the release, and I hope it goes really well. Okay, I'll let you go. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye. And that, dear listener, is the end of the interview. A massive thank you to Bill Dickson for giving me the time for that. And as I'll put the link to the Bandcamp page in the notes below for the album that's just come out from their 1979 session. This has been the C86 show. David Eastaugh. If you want to contact us, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Just do C86 show. All these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. Have a great week. Stay safe.